Joining us now is Congressman Adam Schiff, ranking member of the House Intelligence Committee. Congressman, it's really nice to have you here. Thank you for your time tonight.
Well, thank you. Great to be with you.
I know you will not discuss information that hasn't been publicly released, and a lot of what goes through the Intelligence Committee doesn't ever get publicly released. But is there an answer to that question I just posed as to whether or not you have what you need in the investigative committees in Congress to figure out if some of this online activity by the Russians was coordinated with the Trump campaign?
Not yet, Rachel. We have a lot more work to do. There's, frankly, a lot more information we need to gather, not only from Facebook, but from other social media platforms like Twitter as well. All we have at this point is a snapshot of some of the Russian activity in social media. And as you pointed out, Facebook wasn't aware, as of recently as July, that there was even paid advertising on its platform. But the paid advertising they have identified that they are providing to our committee is only paid advertising that came from money out of Russia that they've been able to trace to Russia. And they have acknowledged that if the Russians bought ads through a third country, if they funneled their money through Eastern Europe or through the Caucasus, that still remains to be analyzed. So all we have right now is one subset, potentially, of Russian advertising. And, of course, in addition to the advertising, you had the Russians creating fake web pages like Heart of Texas that look just like a organic Texas, don't mess with Texas kind of website, organizing protests or rallies for one candidate or against the other. And you had the Russians pushing negative stories about Hillary Clinton or other news they wanted to reach the top of your social media feed. So we only have really one segment pinned down, and that's only one platform. We don't know a lot about their use of Twitter and how the Russians may have, in fact, created trends on Twitter in an effort to influence our election. So there's a lot more work, even before we get to the question of, did they coordinate this in any way? Was the targeting so specific that it couldn't have happened without the benefit of the data analytics generated by the campaign?
I know your committee today spoke with a Trump campaign associate who bragged publicly about being in touch with Julian Assange at WikiLeaks. He bragged, and it was shown at the smoking gun, that he was in direct communication with whoever it was that was identifying themselves as Guccifer. DC Leaks, Guccifer, WikiLeaks, these were all identified publicly by the intelligence community as having been basically tools Russian operation to target our election. Stone brags about having been in touch with all of them and having gotten advance notice about their activity from all of them. Does his testimony shed any further light on this crucial question?
Well, it certainly shed some light, but among the most significant questions he refused to answer. And I think the ranking Republican leading the investigation, Mr. Conaway, the chair of the investigation, and myself, are in agreement that his refusal to answer in terms of his contacts with WikiLeaks just will not be permitted to stand. We gave him the opportunity to come in voluntarily. He said he was going to answer every question, but didn't, and it will be necessary to subpoena him if he doesn't cooperate. Because, and just confining myself to what he's admitted publicly, at times he has bragged about directly communicating with Julian Assange, and at other times he said he did it through intermediary. We obviously have a deep interest to know if there was an intermediary, who that is, and bring them before the committee and find out what conversations they had with Julian Assange, where Julian Assange was getting the material, what Julian Assange was saying in terms of the timing of the dumping of this and the design of influencing our election, and who was behind that, and most importantly, whether they had contacts with the Trump campaign in terms of the coordination or timing of those dumps. So key information he wasn't willing to share today, and we're going to have to subpoena him if he doesn't provide it voluntarily.
I sort of hate to ask you this, sir, but he has singled you out, a couple of other members of the committee as well, but you in particular, as sort of his personal enemy in all of this. And he wants this to be a fight between you and him. Obviously, Mr. Stone is performative and sort of proudly duplicitous in all his public actions. I have to ask you if you find that distracting or offensive, or how you react to him trying to make this a fight between him and you personally.
Well, honestly, I consider some of these things a badge of honor when you're attacked by the president or you're attacked by Mr. Stone or Steve Bannon. I just view it as, well, I must be doing my job right.
Congressman Adam Schiff, top Democrat on the House Intelligence